Anyway, it is Friday. Bring it in with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
Jarod, I'm still an old coach in my veins. And this time of year, my man, going back to when I was a player, the Friday before Thanksgiving was the week we would start our season when I was a high school player. And then, of course, 4 years later, when I graduated high school, I became a coach. Same thing. It's just, even though I'm long past those days and I have no kids left to enjoy those days, there's just something about the Friday of the week before Thanksgiving where, as a basketball person, like something's in the air, So for here, it's heat and humidity, unfortunately. But out in the world, I know a bunch of high school teams are getting started, and I'm fired up for them.
High school teams getting started. They're doing that. College season is begins. So we got Feast Week this week on ESPN. If you're a college hoops person, of course, the NBA. We are 15 games through, so we're at that quarter of the way mark, 20. We're going to be there in about a week. So get excited. We're going to start seeing some trends. Coach, I want to start with this. So the news came out yesterday from ESPN and Adrian Wojnarowski that the GMs and executives in the league are forming a professional association. And this association is going to be done to offer legal defense funds for coaches. It's going to offer them legal counsel referrals. It's sort of as a way to protect them in the wake of what's happening in Portland with Neil O'Shea and the investigation there. Obviously, we know what's happening with Robert Sarver, the owner of the Suns, although that's different. Here's how I see this. Okay, sure. I think if GMs and executives of teams want to protect their contracts, because that's what this is really about, right? Yeah. Because ultimately, what they want to do is not figure out a way, because listen, owners will always try to figure out a way to get out of paying people money, right? That's, an investigation's coming because you were doing some bad stuff. Yeah, let's find cause or some reason to not be on the hook for the rest of these millions of dollars that we owe you. So they will find their way to get out of paying. And so, if GMs want to protect themselves, okay, I don't have any problem with that. The issue I do have, though, is that in the hierarchy of a front office, the GMs, the president of basketball operations, and those men, because they're almost exclusively men, all 30, they're not the ones that really need this kind of protection. Right? The people that need protection are the people, thank you, Randy, so cynical, at the bottom of the rung, right? Because if we're talking about a culture of workplace toxicity and the different things that, and the report said that Woj put out, what was going on with O'Shea kind of spurred the GMs to be like, let's kind of move this forward. They're already thinking about it. Now they're like, no, we really got to make sure this happens. We can also safely assume, Coach, that type of behavior that we see in Phoenix, in Portland, in Dallas, if you remember, that isn't exclusive to those three teams. Stuff like that probably goes on across the league. But the people at the bottom, your video coordinators, your entry-level people, we talked about this last time, those are the ones who have to often whistleblow, make this stuff known, and put their necks on the line. They don't have the luxury of multi-million-dollar contracts or the years of time built up as the top people in the organization to have a professional safety net. And so while it's great that those guys can protect their money, the idea of doing this does not help the people at the bottom. And that is indicative of what goes on in the larger world, right? Like the people at the top create more and more protections for themselves, and everybody else below them continually gets squeezed.
Dude, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I can comment on what you just said, which I can't say any better than what you just did. But that's just the beginning of this disastrous story, in my opinion. Imagine, wave a magic wand and imagine that the breaking news was that this group of extraordinarily well-paid people, again, as you said, mostly white men, not all, but almost exclusively white men, decided to pull together some money to make sure that not a single child doesn't eat Thanksgiving dinner or doesn't go without a toy on Christmas or whatever, some charity thing they want to do. My two brothers and I still have all of our kids basically in college, but we talked about when we no longer have to worry about that bomb of, hey, I'm going to go to medical school for another $200,000 or whatever. What are we going to do? And one of the things we thought about is creating a fund to make sure that no parent ever has to pay to go watch their child play AAU basketball. Because you don't know this, but these are rackets.
Yeah, it costs money, lots of money.
Sometimes $20 a day to go catch this bullshit game where no one calls any fouls. It's basically a bloodbath. And some of us, luckily enough, don't have to worry about that cost. But I know there are parents who don't go watch their children play because they can't afford it. So we've talked about doing something with that. These guys make more money than almost any human on the planet. And this is what they're doing first. They're first deciding to get together for this. It's fucking ridiculous. All right. Now, I'm not a lawyer. And if Judy is willing to opine, I would certainly love their reviews. I think going forward, contractually, any attorney should be able, when they discuss the idea of what cause means for how you can be terminated and then lose your future income, they should be able to include some kind of language to say, well, if someone complains that they're not comfortable and it doesn't reach the level of some kind of civil suit where you've got sexual assault or harassment or whatever, they can still get their money, which is what you said is exactly right. They just want their money. But the idea that this is what they're first doing, it doesn't just scream of privilege. It screams of much more than that. And because I read Henry Abbott and the latest news on Abu Dhabi and all of that, I'm so disappointed that this is the first time we're hearing of an association of very privileged men. This is their target is. I'm disappointed.
100%, coach. And it from the ESPN report, right? Terms reported by the media like toxic environment and hostile workplace felt to rival GMs as a campaign to trigger a firing for cause, presumably a tactic to set up avoiding of the remaining years and salary on Olshey's contract. And the reason why I say this is probably widespread, if that spurred you to move forward, again, you got to ask yourself, well, if you run a great organization, what you worried about, right? You're like, you guys can do whatever. We don't have any problems here. But the reality is that type of activity and behavior, again, that is present in Phoenix, that Neil's being accused of, that went on in Dallas, not only indicative of those three teams. They likely go on, I'm not saying every team, but across more than 3 of the 30 teams in the NBA. And so these guys are all scrambling now. Crap, we got to protect ourselves, right? This is reactionary. You can always see this isn't proactive. This is reactive. Shit, they're coming for us next. Let's put up our walls and our defense system so we're ready to go. And I agree with you, coach. Shameful, screams of privilege. But, this is how society works. Like when you are rich and you have power, your main goal is to gain more riches and consolidate that power. That's how it works.
I don't even know how this ultimately will help them compared to if they just worked on better language in their contracts. I remember this. I remember when Jason Williams got hurt in a motorcycle accident and the Bulls didn't have to pay him his money. Well, because I deal with very bright attorneys who also at the time were agents, I was told that is the first thing you get rid of when you're an attorney and your client is drafted or signs a free agent deal with an NBA team, is you get rid of the clause that says you can't jet ski and you can't water ski and you can't do that. Now, they may not be able to get jumping out of a plane, but his agent fucked up. And so his agent had said, I'll pay that. I think ultimately the Bulls, I think they came around and I think they settled is what I think happened. He fucked up as an attorney, whatever. I don't think his agent was an attorney. Maybe that might have been the mistake. But there's ways around. To your point, Jarod, you could have a great team, and there could be someone who just fucking is pissed off they didn't get a promotion, and they can claim toxic environment. I don't think you're getting fired for that.
Right.
If there is an investigation that is causing for you to be removed, even if you're winning, which most owners wouldn't do, by the way, they'd rather just the win. They can accept the toxicity of it if they're winning. But if it's an egregious complaint and the owner's like, I just want to get my hands off it, whatever, there's a way to protect yourself contractually, I think. And then the other thing was the funds thing. Well, who is eligible for those funds? The guys making $4 million a year? Are they eligible for those funds? Or is it everyone else that potentially could lose their job as you suggest? And I said that to Henry this morning. The funds thing is what got me. But I only speculated that they were creating a fund, a financial fund. He just thought maybe they're just gonna, put together resources intellectually. Now that you just read that, no, it's like we're really, and where are they raising this money from? Who's paying it?
Cashola. Oh, this is Cashola. No, this is, stay tuned. Let's keep our eyes on this story and see where it all goes from here. Again, this is the sort of thing where once one stone gets unturned, it is, again, these things, this isn't just, that's just one example over there. Again, likely happening in other places too. You'll see if teams are starting to scramble now. All of a sudden, who's getting moved on? Just pay attention to the restructuring of front offices over the course of the season and see quietly who moves out, who moves in from what positions.
And I want to finish with this. Jarod, we are in a stage where almost all of the positive feedback we get in the media from the NBA is taking place amongst the men who are playing it on the court. And this is all part and parcel of Henry's essays, which we'll go into later. We're at a stage now where people like me anyway, and you, we're looking for more than that. We want positive stories written genuinely about the people that make up the NBA, not just the players. They already do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel badly about Dave Yeager, a coach who's now going to get cancer treatments. It's very sad. That isn't what we're talking about. I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for violin playing sad stories. When are these people? When are the people that aren't just on the court playing the game, doing things that are generating more positive vibes and making people more proud of this league? The players are doing everything else. It's time for other people to step up. This was a missed opportunity for these executives. If they've got that much money to donate some for this fund to help people who may get fired and lose their privilege of being paid, you could have done some other things first and actually help people.
No doubt. No doubt. All right, let's move to on the floor. Let's talk about that team in Los Angeles, Tinseltown, the Los Angeles Lakers. They are 8-8 as of today, the morning of Friday, November 19th, before they play the Boston Celtics tonight. They are arch rivals. They've been without LeBron James for a majority of those 16 games. Their last game against the Milwaukee Bucks, a Bucks team, yes, who are the defending champions, but Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. Well, Chris just came back from COVID protocols, and Drew and Chris, as we know, not only did they win the title last year, they also played in the Olympics. So they're kind of working themselves back into, being ready for this season. So the Bucks overall have been kind of uneven all season, to put it mildly. And, Giannis Antetokounmpo just beat the mess out of them, right? Like by himself, literally beat the piss out of the Lakers. And I'm wondering, everybody's like, and I believe in this partly. We can't really judge the Lakers yet because LeBron hasn't been around. And I agree. Like their full lineup hasn't been there. But coach, this is 36, 37-year-old LeBron James coming off yet another injury. My concern is that the bet that LeBron made, first of all, the LeBron signing in LA already paid for itself. They won a championship already. So, I mean, everything from here on in is gravy, right? You already won a title, right? 2020 NBA champs in the bubble, done. Championship over. So any money you get now, you pay LeBron James, that's for that title you already won. But his bet was that Anthony Davis would prolong my career and allow me to win more titles. Okay, I don't want to go nuts. It's only 16 games, but coach, through 16 games, Anthony Davis is not doing the things that I think everyone thought he could be coming out of Kentucky, right? That two-way wrecking crew on both sides of the ball. He did it in the finals in that run in the 2020 playoffs and into the finals, but otherwise he's been kind of meh. And I just don't know if I do know if he's not that person, the Lakers have no shot.
Well, for sure. And LeBron has to be very, very good. Great. I would say probably great for them to win. Also, the challenge, I think, for any player like Davis, who isn't a primary ball handler, is the fact that you just can only do so much when you're not a primary ball handler. And not that he doesn't have the ball in his hands a good amount. He does, but it's not the same. So Rudy Gobert is incredible. We don't give him any of the credit because he almost never has the ball in his hands. When he does, he typically is dunking it, blocking it, or rebounding it. That's about it, right? Mm-hmm. So AD is somewhat limited, and he's had his own injury history too. We're going to get to Westbrook in a minute, but they've got a flawed roster right now. And later on, we're going to talk about where we messed up in terms of, we're going to start this weekly thing. The Lakers would have been my choice if we weren't already talking about it. I'm going to talk about a different mistake I made, but they're problematic right now until they get LeBron back. And then at least we'll see. Mm-hmm. We know to a degree what we're going to get, but only to a degree. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be on both ends. They're not this. They've been a very good defensive team, great defensive team. the last couple of years, and
they're not that now.
They don't have some of those players either. So it's going to take some time. I don't think there's a buy-in problem. I think there's an ability problem. This game's a hard game. We say it every week. There's no snapping a finger. Oh, he's got to figure it out now. No, it just doesn't work that way. They've got some coaching to do. They've got some teaching to do. And the players got some improving to do defensively.
Yeah.
And then Westbrook's been terrible, basically. Well, he's been about league average, which is terrible for the money he's making.
Right.
If you didn't have to pay him, you could bring 3 more good players in for his salary and be a much better team.
I think I'm with you. The roster is very flawed, and no LeBron James constructed team is designed to function without LeBron James, right? Because he's that ultimate stopgap and fill. All the things that these other guys can't do because there's brilliant basketball like me, he fills all those gaps. Well, he's not there, and we're seeing what that looks like with him not there. You mentioned defensively, they're a problem. I don't love them defensively. I also don't love their half-court offense either. And their half-court offense wasn't even good when they won the title. But what was good was their defense was elite. They got out and ran, and it was like, well, we got nothing. And then when all else failed, LeBron James AD pick and roll. Good luck. You ain't stopping that. Right. So it was wonderful. And again, so we're going to reserve our 20-game judgment for them because it hasn't been correct. So they have, I guess they get an extra 20 but that's 20 assuming LeBron plays 20 straight games, no more injury reoccurrences. No, right. That assumes that. And we can't assume that at this stage.
I think you'd agree that if this was the LeBron from the Cleveland years where they played the Warriors every year for like half a decade almost, this team would be equal to that team, if not better. Yeah. I mean, considering that he took it to the finals one year without Kevin Love and Kyrie, but this isn't that East. Now the West is down, but it's not that down. It ain't as down as that. I mean, when your biggest competition, what is the name of the big guy that used to give LeBron problems for Indiana? Roy Hibbert. Yep. Verticality. This ain't Roy Hibbert. Like, this is a better West than that East was with Paul George and Hibbert. And it ain't the same LeBron. So yeah, we've got real question marks there. They've got to get better play from Russell. Yeah. I watched him on tape a lot this morning. And I do think, Jarod, I do think there is a path for Westbrook to just be better. The problem is he's never been what they need him to be now, which is a more disciplined decision maker, more disciplined in terms of, I mean, he's got some plays, Jarod, where he looks like 24-year-old Westbrook, like blow-bys. Very impressive. Lately, he's been assisting more. He's been, because I don't know why teams are helping as much as they are, but they are, in part because he does have that burst of speed still sometimes. We don't see it enough. We don't see a lot of discipline. He made what I think may be one of the worst 5 plays I've ever seen a player make. I don't know if you saw the video. I described it to Henry, and he just laughed. So when you grow up playing basketball, one of the first things you'll learn is how to pick up a ball off the dribble when it's flat. You just learn to snap your wrist. Yep. Okay. I told Henry, I still think I can do it right now because I did it 1,000 times a year when I was, 11, 12, 13 up through high school. You just practice it all. I never pick up a ball. I just picked it up. I pounded it, got my dribble going. You have to get your quick hands there. And so Westbrook loses the ball the other day against Milwaukee in the post. The ball gets flat on the ground. He tries to pick it up. He can't do it. Meanwhile, he's boxed out his defender with his ass to make sure they don't come get the ball because it's laying on the ground. It's a loose ball. Yep. So he's boxing the guy out. He's trying to pick it up with his dribble. He can't do it. He finally picks the ball up. There's 14 seconds or so on the clock, and he does a turnaround jump shot.
You're like, what?
What are you doing? That's the Russell Westbrook circus.
Yes.
This is the show that we see.
Yes.
Now, when he was getting triple doubles, which he's not far from it now, and the most athletic point guard of all time, his fire kind of made up for it to some degree, although I do think ultimately he's going to be a very overrated player. He's just so inefficient. And now he shot well the other night, and that helps, but his shot selection is still terrible. If he would just be more pragmatic offensively in the half court, let it go in the full court, in the half court, play off people. When they're helping off you, kick, and just take 7 shots a game. I actually think, I really thought he would do that this year. But without LeBron, he's felt like he has to do more. So hopefully he'll tone it down some. Because I do think they could be pretty good if he does that and LeBron and AD do their thing. And then Vogel ultimately gets the guys to defend at least better. Yeah. To be top 5.
Right.
But it's a question mark right now.
And I think, I love that you brought this up on Westbrook because I was watching some film with him as well. And one of the things about Westbrook is his assist numbers are always high, right? But you and I know, Coach, assisting and playmaking are two different things, right? He's not a great playmaker, right? And the chemistry that he has with AD is non-existent right now. Like, yeah, we run the pick and roll, you dive, I can pass for a wide open layup or dunk. That's easy. But like to steal a football term, he doesn't know how to pass AD open, right? Or like set it up to get guys better shots. He knows how to say, okay, you're open, cool, I'm going to get an assist off a wide open 3, but to get guys a better shot. He's not really good at that. And again,
he never has been.
At this stage of his career, I don't know that he learns that now, right? Like, I think he kind of is who he is.
No, it's a super insightful point. This is where, when I'm evaluating players, even when I was just coaching my son through middle school and high school, when I saw him do just what you said, throw like 50-foot passes when he was in 6th grade to a guy that was just running and then, oh shit, I can get a layup here, score. Like, that's a talent. That's not the most important talent. It's a very good one. Jokic has it. Nick Calathis, who was a great player in Europe for years, that guy that I trained a lot when he was first coming out of Florida, he had it. Like, he was a monster assist guy, one of the best guards in Europe of all time. Like, some guys have it. Rubio has got it. Rubio leads. Your point is great. He throws an open guy to make a shot. Yeah, you get an assist. Thank God. Thank you. Thankfully, you passed the ball. But he has not been a guy that leads you to buckets. He just, whereas James Harden has been in his career. He isn't necessarily now because his job is to score. He'll pass it. But early in his career, Harden led you to buckets. And we don't see him. He's just not going to do that. And he can't do much else as a passer. And he's got to be willing to just make that easy pass and then let LeBron do his thing, which I think he will. I think Devin put that LeBron will be there tonight. I won't be watching tonight, but I'll watch it tomorrow on Synergy. Like, we need to see LeBron, and it's gonna, when guys, we're gonna talk about Siakam later. I'm going to. When guys come off of injury, whatever, like LeBron has, it's a process. LeBron is one of those rare guys. He's been hurt so seldomly, and he's just such a genius that maybe he picks up right where he needs to, but he may not, and they might be below 500 in that process. So they're a team that bears watching for sure. Come buyout time, I think they should be grabbing a G League guy, a young, energetic guy. Put him on. Why
don't teams use the G League better, Coach? They're just terrible at this. All these super young, talented guys, and I know why it is. It's because teams with superstars let the superstars have input, and I understand why you do that. But superstars like players like Carmelo Anthony, right? Guys who know that guy can get buckets. And guys, that matters, but not the only thing that matters, right? And you can't count on that. You need Chris Boucher's, you need Juan Toscano Anderson's, right? You need those kinds of guys. They will help you. Trust me.
I think, to your question, seeing the future is the hardest thing ever. And anything.
Yes.
It's the hardest thing ever. For me personally, I have very little talent in almost anything in life. I'm very good at recognizing faces. I don't know if you saw the Washington Post article, but it turns out that there is a segment of society that can just see a face and almost right away place it, even from 25 years ago, which I just did the other day with my wife, and she knows I do this. I can't fix a car. I can't build a goddamn thing. There's almost nothing I can do. I can recognize faces pretty amazingly, and I know I can predict the future a little bit anyway with young players. It's fucking hard to do. There's amazing GMs that do a lot of great things, far better than I ever could, managing money and all these kinds of things. But that is so hard to do. And this is the problem to your question. They can't see that 21 or 25-year-old G Leaguer who's in the G League for a reason in their minds, and they can't see what it'd be like on their team. And they just think, well, he's branded as a G League guy. He can't be the answer. Meanwhile, the two guys you mentioned are just two of many that clearly have shown they can help a team win. You got to give them a chance and let them play through mistakes. And most GMs just can't do it. Or the coaches can't do it. Coaches are just as guilty. GMs will bring these guys in and a coach won't play them. Or they'll yank them quickly if they make a mistake. They would let their star make the same mistake over and over again. But as soon as the young cat does it, they're done.
Yeah.
And the Lakers are desperate for young, athletic energy, guys that can make a play defensively, guys that can chase down loose balls. All those things matter. And I don't trust that they will. Maybe they will. I just don't trust that they will.
And we're going to talk about this team later, but the Warriors did that, right? They had a team full of youngsters making a crap ton of mistakes, and they were bad. They're looking pretty good right about now. Looking real good. We'll get to them in a minute.
Hey, introduce the thing. I need 30 seconds.
You need 30 seconds. Okay, cool. So there is a article out in the Rolling Stone by Matt Sullivan, who's been doing some really, really great reporting lately around the NBA. So check him out on Rolling Stone. And it is about the secret COVID outbreak that shot fear through the NBA Finals. I don't know if you guys all remember this, but Giannis's brother, who's on the Lakers, his brother that's on the Bucks, excuse me. He was taken out, or he was in health and safety protocols. And I remember at the time wondering, well, what are the chances that Giannis and his brother were not in direct contact with each other, but he's the one who's in health and safety protocols, but Giannis isn't? I mean, they had an NBA Finals to win, so whatever. Not saying anything nefarious happened, but I'm not saying it didn't. This was interesting because and this article is great. I encourage you all to read it. Matt does really good reporting. When the Bucks were getting ready together and bringing everybody, getting ready to go to the finals, Mike Budenholzer was like, of course we're bringing our families. We're doing this, we're doing that. And you get swept up in the moment and the everydayness of this is the highest stage of our profession. This is the NBA Finals. This is it. This is the pinnacle. You dream of winning this thing. No, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And I asked Coach this before the show. Do we know exactly how many people on the Suns and Bucks were vaccinated? I think I feel pretty confident in saying a decent amount of the staff were, because the NBA was pushing that early. I don't know how many of the players were. Right. So this was, and people were, as you saw, because the other Antetokounmpo brother actually was put in the protocols, right? There are people who the COVID outbreak happens, and somehow, it calls into question the NBA's health and safety protocols and what they would actually do in a situation where important players actually got it in a meaningful game with stakes, right? i.e. the playoffs and the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about really is it calls into question their integrity, the integrity of the game. If we're going to move goalposts for ratings, we're professional wrestling. So this to me is I mean, again, going back to Henry's piece, essays, and now your point to this question, which it is an amazing article. Is there integrity, or is it just a ratings fight? And we're going to pretend that we care. I mean, they put this great bubble together, and I had players inside that bubble masking and testing, and all that was amazing. But now we wonder what they might have done had someone tested positive in the NBA Finals. And then a year later, and we understand, and you and I both, everyone understands that the stress and pressure from the business side, also from the interest in trying to protect people. I was telling you, my dad had to be put into a rehab center because he can't walk. He's been hospitalized a lot lately, and his muscles just atrophied so much. And I didn't know this until my mom told me, he was afraid to go in because he didn't know how strict of a rule they would have regarding mask and everything. And he's been fully boosted and all of that. But I guess a lot of people have died in those places. I didn't even know that. It's not a nursing home. It's you go there just to be able to walk again and then let out. So we're trying to protect those people. We're trying to protect the player, the coach, the staffer from an NBA team that has a 3-year-old at home that can't even get the vaccine. So this article talks about a number of people that tested positive, but imagine had there been a death from an exposure to an NBA personnel. They dodged a real bullet with that. And so again, it goes to, don't just give us the dog and pony show. Let's be real about the process.
Two things on that dog and pony. So I was at an NBA event for a team earlier this week, and when you had a fully vaccinated event, you had to be vaccinated to come in. Okay, so everybody shows their vaccine card, blah blah, whatever. no masks because everyone's vaccinated, presumably, right? But there were NBA legends and a current NBA player scheduled to attend. As soon as they were ready to walk into the building, the person stops the music, gets on, please put your masks on and all that. And I just looked and I was like, so you were cool with all this with us because, who are we? Right? But when those dudes come in, oh, no, mask on now. Right? Like, I was like, that's interesting. And the point you made about ratings. Look, this is no secret that the NBA's current deal is up in 2025, if I'm not mistaken. That's when the new deal is going to kick in. Look, they need all the money they can get because there was lost revenue as a result of COVID and the league shutting down for that period of time. And, these are billionaires. So I'm sorry, the owners. So I'm not crying for them and neither should you. But they're all complaining. We don't have any money. We're broke. Tillman broke way for Tito and everybody else is doing their thing. Right. But let's be real. They ain't broke. But they're so worried about this next negotiation and this contract coming up. Right. I mean, you saw what they did. The NBA had TNT on 2 nights, Tuesday and Thursday, the national TNT games. They said, no, we're not doing Thursdays anymore until football is over. Why do you think they did that? Because they don't want our ratings to look bad when they present their metrics to whomever their next partner is, right? We'll keep Tuesday. That's fine. And then when football is over, regular season, we'll bring Thursday back. Listen, it's very clear what they're doing and what their whole game plan is here. Everything is contingent on that next big TV deal, and they hope it is a massive one because they need an influx of cash right now.
Yeah, that's why we wondered last week about expansion. Like, it just seems impossible that they're not going to expand 2 teams.
Yeah, I know.
It's just free money.
Good God, expand.
Honestly, I don't mind it because I like players making money.
Yeah, more players making money.
And I think there's so many more that can help. It's going to water down your truly elite superstars. Those guys don't exist beyond the NBA in that sense. Not to say there's not a couple guys in Europe that could be great, of course, but you're talking about 1 or 2 maybe. There's another 50 that could help a team win a game right now in the NBA that don't for different reasons. So I think we'll cast a wider net for just pure talent, but there's going to be less 2-star teams, which again, I'm fine with. You might see a bigger pivot. There already has been a small pivot, a bigger pivot to the European style tactics. Of course, they got it from us in many cases. Not that they haven't evolved it better, because they have, but they just don't have the ability to give the ball to LeBron, go make a play, John Morant, go make a play, nearly as often as they do in the NBA. They have to use tactics. They have to use strategies, and they're great. And there's a real intricacy to it. We don't see that as meat potatoes in the NBA the way they do in Europe. I think you'll see that if we add 2 more teams and there's just 1 Kyrie per team, 1 AD per team, more or less. I think the brand of basketball will get even better.
Yeah,
but when do they not? Ultimately, it's an ATM machine for these guys. They're going to turn it on.
As per usual. So, Coach, something interesting is happening with the Oklahoma City Thunder head coach, Mark Daniel. Judy, if you could pull up that tweet. He will not be traveling with his team this weekend because his wife is pregnant and they don't know when the baby will come. And I know, as a dad and as someone who loves to talk about the humanity behind this, as do I, you were excited to see this.
Yeah, my dad wasn't able to be in the room when I was born. They didn't allow that back then. That's how fucking barbaric. Just 1 generation ago, 2 generations ago. But I'll just, from a practical standpoint, everyone, I'm sure if Judy isn't going through this now, it's coming like tomorrow, where your children suddenly think that you don't understand them. And I get puberty and how it works. And I always said, well, what don't I understand? Because the first millisecond you saw air and felt air, I was holding your mom's left leg with a video camera in my big old hand. Like, I was right there. I've known you since the second you took your first breath, since your first tear, since your first cry. I was right there, and I've never gone anywhere. And they don't necessarily love to hear that consciously, but it's my opinion, having been around a long time now, that it gave them some comfort that, you know what, this weird old man who now has very fuzzy face, he does know me. And so I think it helped me in both my children, especially my daughter, when they kind of dealt with some things that dad really, he's been with me every fucking second. Mom is a separate issue, which of course she was there and even longer. It matters. It matters, I think, unconsciously, at the very least, to your children, when you say to them when they're older, there's a lot of things I could have been doing except for being there with your mom when you came out, but that's where I was because you're my child. That's a powerful message that we all should be giving. I know you could speak eloquently about the idea of doing things for parents who could be home, paternity leave and maternity leave and all of that.
Without question.
Child care. I mean, we can claim we're the best country in the world. It's just a bullshit claim. But it would start with how we take care of our children when they're at their most vulnerable. So to me, when we talk about what we just did, Jarod, with the lack of integrity regarding the Rolling Stone article and COVID, and these fucking GMs who are pulling the other money to do what they're doing, and not for other more caring things, and then we're gonna segue right into Henry's thing, which we'll talk about in a second. The league is thirsting for an identity that isn't as slimy as everything else we're seeing in the public debate, public sphere regarding politics. And this is one tiny little example of a man who gets it. And maybe he didn't want to take off. And mom said, no, of course you're going to be with me when I give birth. Or I don't know that we'll be around when you get open the grocery. Which my wife might have said had I been, of course, all in to go. So this is at least just a tiny little foothold that we can grab onto. This is what our league should be about going forward. I think we'd be better for it, and the league will be better for it.
What we're seeing here, Coach, and something that you and Henry and I talk about all the time is it's okay. We can break these caveman, prehistoric, macho jock culture tropes that exist in sport. Guess what? You can go to the birth of your child and still be a tough MFer on the basketball court. Both things can be true, right? Like that is possible. And I think we just need to get away from all these archaic, like idiotic ways of thinking. And hopefully, slowly but surely, someone like the head coach of the Thunder, Mark Daniel, doing this will be one little sliver, one little crack in that. You mentioned Henry's latest piece. We're going to Abu Dhabi.
Who didn't see this coming? Right?
Right.
Who did? But the timing of what Henry's been writing about and this coming out is just so perfect. But you're a perfect person to lead us into this discussion.
So, David Stern, rest in peace, before Adam Silver, his whole focus and goal was globalizing this game, right? That's was a stated mandate.
Right.
But the globalization was really about increasing the coffers, right? And making more money, because the NBA at the end of the day is a money-making entity, like every other professional sports league. And domestically, for whatever reason, then you could look into football, the cities in which NBA teams exist, all of that, right? The market here, in the way that the NBA is currently doing business, is tapped, right? If they continue to do it the way they're doing it, I don't know how much more money they can make here. But in Asia, India, Africa, all those are places where, we got a basketball loving people and we have an opportunity to make money. Now, this isn't just as simple as, all right, we're going to one of these countries and we're just going to go play some hoops and things are going to happen. No, you got to talk to people that matter, right? Governments, different officials. And in foreign countries like Abu Dhabi, it isn't so much about government as it is about, the power brokers that be, right? These people in and of themselves are nation states, right? Whether they be oil sheiks, princes, what have you, guys who were loosely associated with or closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein. These are, generally speaking, and I say this all the time, people who have amassed that kind of fortune, by and large, bad people, right? You can't amass that kind of money doing good works, right? That's not how you make that kind of money. And the NBA moving itself into Abu Dhabi and aligning themselves with people who want to associate with the NBA to sort of make themselves look like great people. Well, that doesn't help us, the NBA, right? That tarnishes the NBA's brand, which is what we've just been talking about, right? The league is looking for something good and a way to change the image. This stuff, not helping. And Henry's articles and what part are we up to now? 18, 19? I don't even know. This is showing you the dirty underside of the money that's coming into the league and the characters behind that money and what that is doing to ultimately going to do to this great game and this league that we love.
Yeah, perfectly said. Forgive me for this because I know we try to avoid politics, but I'll be really brief. In our state, the governor here got rid of vaccine mandates for businesses and ostensibly so that, people can won't lose their jobs if they refuse to get the vaccine. We know that the House just passed. I think Biden just signed a law, a huge infrastructure deal with almost no support at all from one of the two political parties in the country today. And the overall fight, Jarod, ultimately is about the word democracy, because in a democracy, there has to be compromise and there has to be integrity. And so as awful as the Republicans were during the Nixon years, when they were finally faced with the truth of, we have the tapes and we need to listen to the tapes, everyone jumped on board and convinced Nixon to get out. And there's a few other things. I won't go into Watergate. I know the Watergate story pretty well. There was a few things where Republicans tried to dust everything off, just like Democrats did with Clinton. I'm not suggesting it's only one side. But ultimately, they recognized, okay, we need a compromise here. We don't want to give up power, but Nixon's really terrible. We have to do it. Well, democracy won. But now we're seeing these things pass only because of one party, and the other party wants nothing to do with it, even though it's helping their own constituents. They don't want democracy. They want autocracy. Sure. They want complete control. And absent anything short of that, they're not going to participate. Compromise is dead, right? Well, compromise requires integrity, because you have to recognize what you stand for, what is most important. And when you do, then you're willing to compromise if indeed you have integrity. Yeah. And this is where I feel, as much as the NBA needs money, I would rather them, and I think you would agree with this, I would rather pay the world's best players less money because they just don't have it, because they're not going to go in business in where they're going to business in. And we have this issue in China. I don't know much of the story about the Chinese tennis player, the woman who
Peng Shui. Yeah.
It's a controversy. No one really knows the truth that I'm aware of, but we know what that country right now stands for and what they're like. Biden even has, I saw yesterday, a diplomatic boycott of their Olympics. Like, that needs to be discussed. That's it doesn't help us financially to do that, but there is some decency in Joe Biden, even though he's been a politician forever. I think we need an NBA that has integrity, that can compromise, and I think we'll be healthier as a league going forward 10, 20, 50 years. But you keep getting in bed with those kinds of people, we're going to get bit and we're going to get hurt over and over again.
What's the saying? You lay down with dogs, you wake up with fleas, right? Like, that's kind of what happens. And China, of course, is a country that the NBA, as we all know, very much in bed with. And NBA players who literally go on tour to China every single offseason to sell their shoes, right? I'm not saying the players are complicit in what's, all I'm saying is these are questions you have to raise. Like, is it really worth the extra 20 million? Particularly the guys at the top. You've already got X. Does that really matter? But that is the thing about capitalism and power. Capitalism functions literally to eat everything around it and lay waste to everything. That is its sole goal, to continue to multiply and destroy everything in its path and amass more money. Same thing with people who have power. And it's, slippery slope, friends. Anyway, love what Henry's doing. Of course, everybody keep your eyes on that. Make sure you're really watching and paying attention to those stories, because it's really, he's doing the Lord's work out there, really, because he's going deep in the weeds here. Coach, it's early. No need to talk about MVPs. I mean, my God, like, we're only 15 games in, but let's talk about MVPs. Look, if anybody wants to tell me that they choose either Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, or Nikola Jokic as their MVP, I'm not going to argue. I'm like, okay, you win. Any one of those three guys, I will take any argument about those three. But I was looking particularly at Jokic's numbers, in the advanced numbers, especially, Coach. And again, it's early. Let's not lose our minds. We know dunks and threes are our favorite site. I mean, just like last year, where they do the dots on the side to represent the player.
The coolest thing.
And he was at the top, and there was this wide gap between him and number two. It's doing the same thing this year, 15 games in. The other stat that I love is on Basketball Reference, and one of my favorite stats is win shares per 48 minutes, right? Yeah. 48 minutes, the length of a regulation basketball game. Win shares for 48, right? Calculates how many wins you contribute over 48 minutes against league average, which is 0.100. Jokic is at 0.358, 3.5 times above league average. Oh, and by the way, his counting stats are absurd as well. 26.8, 13.8 rebounds, 6 point something assists. Oh, wait, he's also a plus on defense this year. I mean, he might be better than he was last year, coach. Like,
well, last year in advanced metrics, for example, on EPM and dunks and threes, number 2 was Rudy Gobert. And so people who don't really understand basketball would think something's flawed. Rudy Gobert isn't the second best player. I didn't think that. I watched the Jazz play. I know the impact Gobert had on wins. Jokic was just way better. Well, this year it's Steph Curry. Now I'll say something. That's Steph. Okay. And Jokic still is way above him, right? He's like he's in the penthouse and Curry's on the 10th floor. And the next guy's like on the 6th floor. Jokic's on 25th floor. That's why I wrote this article. He's the best player in the world. I actually wrote, I think I said to Henry, there's no antidote for him. And because Henry's an amazing editor and partner, he put that into the title. There's nothing you can do. Although I have to admit, I turned off the game at halftime yesterday. He had 27. He only finished with 30. So I just went blank into who guarded him yesterday.
Who the Nuggets play yesterday?
I just went blank.
Devin, can you look that up first? Who the Nuggets play last night?
I just watched. I'll think of it in a second. I just watched the game, but I don't think it was anything necessarily they were doing. He is
Sixers.
Yeah, he beat without a lot of those guys. What makes him so special is there's no weakness. There used to be defensively, but he's shooting threes. Hell, they're running him off screens. They're running him off. I wrote about this. I showed a GIF. They're running him off a staggered screen, and they did a step back to get a three.
He's a point center.
Oh, he's all of that, right? Scotty Barnes is a point, quote unquote, center. No, this guy really is a point center. No point needed. He is. He makes everyone better. He does. There's just no antidote for him like there is for Giannis. Not to say there's an easy one for Giannis.
Right.
And as we wrote this the night before, Giannis had 47. So I think he's right there. I think both are. They're not just both great players. They're historically great. They're good. Yeah. They're 2 of the best players of all time. Jokic doesn't look the part. He's more Larry Bird because he isn't a great athlete. Well, it's just about scoring points and keeping the other guys from scoring.
That's the game.
Doesn't matter if you're athletic. If you can do, that's the game, right? So he's throwing passes that I've never seen before. I put one GIF in there where he's on the post and he does like a loop around, almost like a hammer pass to the opposite wing. Like, how did he get through? His vision's uncanny, coach. You know, it's funny. You said that's the game. A friend of mine, woman. No, you said that's the game.
Well, I did say that.
Right.
A friend of mine, a woman once said to me during a timeout watching a basketball game, "What do you think the coach is telling so-and-so?" And I'm like, well, she goes, "No, this is what he should say. When you get the ball, put it in the basket. When they get it, don't let them put it in the basket." And I was like, I mean, essentially, that's pretty much if you break it down what he's saying, right? That's the game. Score and stop the other team from scoring.
Right. The how is the hard part.
Right.
That's why we train, study the film and all that. But that is the goal. And he's amazing at it. He's gotten to be very good as a drop defender, very good in space defensively, and talls up really well, doesn't foul a lot and all of that. And he just, you said it earlier. He's leading dudes to buckets.
Yes.
Right. Some animals know where the food is, and some you got to bring it.
Lead them.
Fine. There's NBA players that need help doing that. A lot of them, actually. Wiggins is one that I thought had a bad feel for where to get points. Just play with Jokic. He
getting better now playing on the Warriors. I'll tell you that.
He definitely is. And I think he's learned the game too. He is. Jokic is a real treasure, and there's nothing soft about this dude.
No.
And now that he's in shape, he is really.
Listen,
he's the best player in the world.
You grew up in Serbia at the end of the Yugoslavian conflict. Listen.
Oh, right.
America has this thing about like our inner cities and like ghettos being the toughest places in the world. And I'm not saying they're not tough. They certainly are. And coach, you know about a lot of them.
Yeah.
War torn is a different kind of tough than this, right? It's a very different thing than worry about getting bombed, right? From enemies. That's completely different. So Jokic is definitely tough.
I may have said this to you before. I don't know if I said this on the air or not, but when I was coaching an inner city a group of inner city kids at my first job. We brought in a great player from Sweden who was terrific. I recruited him. He played for me in summer. He was supposed to go play at Lutheran High School in New York. I met his parents. Next thing you know, he's playing for St. Pete for us. He was great. He's a longtime pro after that. That was recruiting. But then it's hard. He wasn't as good as we thought it'd be because we just so many athletes where I live. And these Europeans then really struggled, unless they were 6'10" playing point guard like Kukoc, to play with the athletes we had. So instead, we decided, you know what? Our kids in the projects can't look past their projects.
Mm-hmm.
To your exact point, they thought this was the only place where there was so much pain. And so we brought in for, I think, 3 straight years, at least 2 straight years, we brought kids in from the conflict in that part of the world.
Yeah.
And it was amazing how our players would watch the 6 o'clock news because it led off every night, the Civil War in what was Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed our players' perspectives. And now on Facebook, I see them communicating with their old teammates from the early 90s who grew up, they would read about the last animal to get killed in the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, forget about the fact that our players were watching, our one player each year, were watching to see if a family member survived the night. Yeah. Where was the bombing at? And their parents would send them over here because they were trying to save their kids' lives. So yeah, that's where Jokic was developed. And and their practices in terms of coaching are old school military. I don't love it.
Right.
Denny Avdia is Israeli and Serbian, and it's really become a plus defender for them. He's very. So
you're
good.
Saying he got yelled at his entire basketball life?
Yeah,
is what
right.
You're saying.
in a guttural language because he lived in Israel. Yeah, the Serbs do not play. When you play for a Serbian coach, get ready to be yelled at. He may be a genius, but you're going to get screamed at. So Jokic, there's just, like I said, there's no antidote. There's nothing for the near, and as he ages, he's got to continue to stay thin because we know slow players, they just suddenly fall off a cliff like Battier, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas athletes can hang around longer. Mm-hmm. The slow players to begin with just kind of fall off the cliff. Jokic needs to stay nimble and lean, and he's going to be doing this for a long time.
And to think about, really quick before we move on, the best player in the world sort of crown and moniker. That isn't a thing, guys, where you're going to wear it for like 2-3 years in a row. Like that crown gets shifted literally sometimes by the month, by the week, right? Like, and it's because all this great talent we have, Jokic, Curry, Durant, it's going to flip around. Giannis, it's going to flip around because
when he's back.
Right. LeBron, when I'm still here. It's a wrestling match because these are the greatest players that we've seen. Let's talk about the Warriors real quick, Coach. I know you wanted to talk about Steph Curry and 9 threes and why that was so incredible.
I read a tweet where he's had, this was before he made 9 threes in a 4th game in 11 days. There's a bunch of great shooters that have done 3 or 4 games in their career where they have 9 threes or more in a game. And he's done it 4 times in 11 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a reminder. I think he's got 38 in his career, which is just
dwarfs number 2. Dwarfs.
If Judy gets to that, we can post the thing up. It is he's a freak. He's as much a freak as Giannis is an athlete.
Yeah. It's a different kind of freak. And this is what I wanted to say about the Warriors, Coach. And this will dovetail into what did we get wrong? I'm going to say got the Warriors wrong because I wasn't sure that the defense is going to be as good as it is. Now, I know the strength of the schedule still has been low, but it's looking excellent through 15 games. And given the state of the Western Conference right now, Coach, I know it's early. A lot can change between now and the start of the playoffs. Looking ahead and forecasting a matchup on the floor, the only team that looks like, okay, I think they're going to give the Warriors problems would be Phoenix and the Clippers. And the reason why I say those 2 teams is because they can still play their best defensive lineups. And in Phoenix's case, Ayton's fine. I mean, look, anybody gets switched out on Curry, he can make shot over contest, but he's okay switching out on Curry. And the Clippers can play without Zubac, and have their best defense on the floor. Utah needs Rudy on the floor. Dallas, well, whatever. Right? They're just not good enough. No. And the Nuggets need Jokic on the floor. And as good as he's gotten defensively, Jokic on Curry on the perimeter, not a good matchup. And we know what happens when Jokic is off the floor. So look, again, early, if they came out the West, not going to surprise me now.
Yeah, so that's we're doing this segment where we pick something that went wrong in our projection, whether it's something we said last week or something we said at the beginning. I had them at 48 wins and did not think they'd be a contender absent Clay and Weissman looking much better. We don't know yet. We'll have to see, but they're certainly looking great now. And I was wrong about the Bulls. I don't remember. I think I had them around 500. I have to look, but I was wrong because I didn't see DeRozan doing what he's doing. I think
excellent.
It didn't work out great in San Antonio. We now realize he needs to be freed up. I also think he's competitive as hell, and it's just decided I'm going to prove that I'm better than what people thought. So I'm excited for Billy Donovan, the Bulls. They're doing really well, and I hope that he continues it. If he doesn't, they'll go down. Also, I love Lonzo Ball.
Caruso and Lonzo are so good at point of attack, coach.
Oh,
Caruso. My God. Oh my God. The two of them are like pit bulls when you stick them on a primary ball handler. It's like,
and he's just a good player.
Yes.
He had a great finish the other day. Yes. He's shooting much better. His free throws are great. Like I give him I'm a big fan. So
the ball doesn't stick. He passes ahead. Like it's just he's brilliant. Passer. All right, let's jump to our top 5 really quick before we wrap here. You go. Who's number 5 on your list?
I'm going to do a quick honorable mention to the Wizards because my buddy Tommy Shepard just got a big extension. So congrats, Tommy. He and I were texting yesterday. Well-deserved. He has built a great culture. My number 5 team might be higher for you, but they played a terrible schedule, and yet they're hot as hell. So I've got the Phoenix Suns at number 5.
Nope, that's my 5 as well. Phoenix Suns.
Nice, yeah. They're rolling. I think whatever. Yeah, 7 in a row.
Yeah, something like that. They're on fire.
You don't apologize for winning games.
Number 4 for you.
4, it's to me, there's 3 teams in the running here. Maybe you have the Bulls there. I don't. I've got the Nets at number 4 by a hair.
So as usual, I cheated. Nets / Bulls at 4.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get the Bulls. Yeah, I don't know why I'm so stubborn with the Bulls after what I just said, but they're certainly close. But I've got the Nets at 4.
Who do you got at 3?
I've got Miami Heat at 3.
Same here.
All right, yeah, we're kind of boring this week.
Yeah, we are.
These are all teams that are very good. They're not great. Like we don't have a great team on both sides. The Nets can get there, but we saw against the Warriors where some flaws are. Though Harden's coming.
Nets look great for 2 quarters. I'm like, 3rd quarter, this is your problem right now. And you saw it. So all right, I'm pretty much sure our 2 and our 1 are the same. Utah and Golden State.
Yeah, I have Jazz at 2.
Yeah, Jazz at 2, Golden State at 1.
Yeah, Jazz just got Rudy Gay back, and I question that contract this summer, but there's no question he played great for San Antonio last year. He was unbelievable last night. He has a lot of pride. He knows how many points he needs to move up to get to 20,000 points. He was quoted last night about how many points he needs, so he's motivated, and so I think Utah is going to be right there all year.
I mean, they have the institutional knowledge. And that's the thing, again, to not overwhelm on the Warriors. Those 2 years, coach, of them not being good helped in 2 ways. One, it gave Steph and Draymond 2 postseasons off, which I don't know if you guys know, rest matters. Okay. They look incredible right now because they haven't played until late June for 2 straight years. That's huge. And those young guys got to get on the floor, learn, make all the errors, and be terrible for 2 years. Now, oh shit, we know what to do now. And we got this dude, Steph Curry and Draymond Green. Listen, and if Clay comes back and he's reasonable, it's again, because of the institutional and the corporate knowledge, the championship medal and moxie, which you can't measure that, but they just know how to win. They're going to be a tough out. And again, if you are caught and you got big men on the floor, you're toast because that's not a place you want to be with Curry on the perimeter. It's dog food. You're getting eaten.
Curry is like what's the Avengers? I just went blank. What's the Avengers name?
Hawkeye. I don't know. Avengers. Okay.
Hawkeye. Where he said he went in one movie. He said he played 18 holes and shot an 18. Like he just throws. He could hit the ball in. It's a little bit ridiculous. He's great with the bow and arrow. Curry, like he doesn't make every shot, not even close, but he's chucking the ball, man. He's chucking it, but he chucks it in.
Flamethrowers, baby. Raining hailfire. All right, folks.
We'll see with Clay and Weissman, but it's all good because they're developing their young players too.
And with the rest of the West being weak, the rest of their schedule is pretty cake the rest of the season. They might run away. Yeah.
And they already played a week one.
Games against Phoenix is really in Utah, but like other than that, they're good to go. All right, here we go. It is that time, guys. Everyone have a great weekend. We'll be back next Wednesday for a special Thanksgiving episode of Bring It In. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.